Okay, members of council and our citizens, thank you very much for being here. We are in the open session of our Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 West Grey Council meeting. I do have a motion from our Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session at 7:07 p.m. Are there any questions, members of council, on this? Then I will call the motion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It carries. Thank you. We did start our council meeting at 6 p.m. because we had items that we needed to speak with about in camera. So we are now on item 5, but before I speak about this motion, I do want to say that only the items that we went specifically in camera for were the only items that we talked about. All right, moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints the following individuals to the West Grey Traffic Safety Working Group: Robert Edwards, Johanna Friendly, Robin Rich, Robert McKenzie. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director. All right, we're swiftly moving to item 6, which is comment period. Members of the audience, are there any comments germane to this agenda? Thank you very much. Public meetings. We do have one. We're just a little shy of the time. For the public meeting, it will start at 7:15 p.m. and it will conclude at 8 p.m. This public meeting, which I will call more formally later, but it is for the keeping of hens / housekeeping bylaw. You have that attached on your agenda, and we will get more into that a bit later, but I'm wondering if we could move on, and I will definitely keep tabs on the time, but if there is the motion dealing with the consent agenda. All right, thank you. So you'll see that Part 1 consent agenda also moves over onto our second page. Just waiting for the motion to come back. Oh, yes. Here, that's just from the minutes. Okay. Thank you. All right, for our consent agenda, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton, be it resolved that items A1 to A3 inclusive, contained in Part 1 consent agenda, be adopted as amended, and further that the authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Are there any comments? Councillor Hutchinson.
To pull the minutes. Sorry, I'd like to pull the minutes for the Ayton Recreation Committee for further discussion at a later date.
Pull the minutes for discussion at a later date. Did I?
Well, or sorry, later
time.
Later time
Today
sorry,
on
yes,
this agenda.
Not a later date. Sorry.
Ayton rec minutes. No, because that would make a difference that we could move it over to another meeting if that was the case. Okay, I've got that noted that we'll pull the Ayton Recreation minutes. And is it something that we can quickly talk about now, or is it something that we need to talk about later in the agenda under new business? Or
I think it'd be better if we can discuss it maybe a bit later. It has to do with a budget item, and I think there might be some discussion on that. Okay,
thank you very much for that. Anything further? You're of the same mind on that? Thank you very much. All right, with that in mind, I'm calling the motion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And Director Mighton, I'm going to hang on to this particular one just to remind me to pull the item later. All right, so that takes us all the way over to Part 2, regular agenda. So this is item 9 now, communications from mayor and members of council. So I think there's quite a bit, I expect, from our council members. So that is what we'll we'll deal with. I want to first say that Chief Rob Martin has been appointed as chair of the National Traffic Committee, and this is a committee that is dealing directly with the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. So congratulations and well done, Chief. I know that you're the perfect chief for this position, so well done on that, and I absolutely wanted to make that as my first comment. You're quite welcome. Also, I want to let members of council know, as well as citizens, if you do not already know, that Christmas in the country has now moved. It will be in the hamlet of Formosa, so it will no longer be in the Sulphur Springs Conservation Authority. And the date also has changed, so it will fall on the first full weekend of December, December 6th, 7th, and 8th. So FYI. We are having a Elmwood Vision session just to follow along with our visioning on November 21st at 7 p.m. at the Elmwood Community Center. And our last vision session will be on November 26th, 7 p.m. at the Glen Elk Hall. So I hope one and all can attend. Well, I just want to say that the West Grey Police Service Toy Drive has begun, and I hope that you have an opportunity to, each and every one of you, participate in that. And also, there is a food drive that will also take place at Foodland, as I understand. I want to mention that I participated in the joint emergency control group exercise with Owen Sound, Grey County, and West Grey. Very successful, a lot of hard work on that, lots of learning, and that I brought greetings to the Trinity Anglican Church, Durham, for their 170th anniversary. And if you just take a moment, that's 170 years that this church has been in Durham, and I think that's absolutely, absolutely amazing. I have said enough. I will ask our deputy to begin, and then I'll go down. Councillor Shea will finish off this side, and then I'll come back over here. Oh, yeah. Did you want to speak for the minute, or do you need longer? Okay. Okay, so we have a minute. I don't want to go on an auction. Who wants to speak for the 1 minute? So, Councillor Hamilton, thank you.
Start the clock.
Start the timer.
So last week I attended the Ontario Urban Forest Council's one-day seminar, and lots of great information about the value of trees in urban areas, including boosting our home values, sinking carbon, reducing greenhouse gases, filtering water, slowing down stormwater, and reducing urban heat island effect and cooling our neighborhoods. So I look forward to sharing with Council and with the Sustainability Advisory Committee everything I learned. And I'll just note that in our newest Municipal World magazine that we all received this month, the first article, I sat with those authors at the table. They were there. So I made some really good connections with forest rangers across Ontario and people who know lots about trees. And just one last thing to share. This Saturday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Durham Arena Hall, West Grey Public Library presents an evening of storytelling with Wob Rice, author of Moon of the Crusted Snow. Tickets are only $7, and encourage everyone to come out and hear this author speak on Saturday. Thank you.
I will be there. Actually, I'm looking forward to that, so I'll see you there. All right, with that, that's excellent timing. We're now at 7:15. We'll return back to item 7, which is our public meeting. This is dealing with the keeping of hens / housekeeping bylaw. I did mention that it is attached. We will start the public portion of this. I could tell you that if everybody in the audience that wishes to speak to this item has done so, and we're still not at 8 p.m., we will hold this public meeting open in the event that there are other individuals that come in and wish to speak right up to 8 p.m. So we can continue on with the rest of our agenda, but I will, and I know you will also be mindful of those other individuals that potentially come in, and I'll just inquire if they're here for the public meeting. How's that? All right, thank you very much. So with that, I'm opening up the public meeting. Are there any members of the audience that would like to speak to this item? Okay. Well, thank you very much. If you're here just on the public meeting, thank you for being here, and it'll stay open till 8 p.m. If you change your mind, just let me know, and I will absolutely invite you to the podium with that. Okay, so we'll just keep this open. So now we can go back to item 9, which is communications for mayor and members of council. And thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Now, I know you did that in a minute's time. Is there anything further that you wanted to add? All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Hutchinson then. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder that the Durham tree lighting at the Walkway Bridge is December 4th at 6 p.m., sponsored by the BIA. And also just a shout out to all those that participated in the Remembrance Day service in Durham. Big turnout, always a good turnout and a good day, and one that hopefully everyone takes a few moments and just reflects on what that day is all about. So thank you to all those that took part, and thank you to the Legion for arranging that day and doing lots of different activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shea, please. Oh, right. You know what? Thank you for that. I just had in my mind that you had already spoken, but I do remember you gave the deferral. So thank you for your courtesy there on that acknowledgement. Deputy Mayor, please.
Because I'm going to need about 10 minutes here.
Oh,
that's all.
take it, take it.
No, a couple of things. St. Peter's Lutheran Church annual carol service will be Sunday, December 1st at 7:30 p.m. The Moorestown by Candlelight, it'll be Saturday, December 14th and Sunday, December 15th. They have horse-drawn sleighs, and that's put on by Grey Roots. That's, I believe, an own sound, right? Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
That one is?
The Moorestown is in Georgian Bluffs at the Grey County Museum.
But it's put on by the Grey, right?
Yes.
There
Thank
we go. Other than that, I got out to the Durham Legion Craft Show, the Newstead Craft Show a couple weekends ago. Did the Lions Pork Chop Dinner, never missed that in Newstead the following Sunday. Also attended the Remembrance Day. It was a cold morning, but again, it was well worth it. And, you know, as much as it was cold, you got to imagine what the people that protected our country and served, what they went through. So it wasn't that cold when I got that in the back of my mind. Elmwood Tree Lighting is going to be November the 24th, 3:30 to 5 p.m. Aiden Tree Lighting's November 30th. And I got one final shout out. We have a local athlete. His name's Owen Ron. He lives in Durham. He did go to he plays for the U17 Team Canada softball team, and they were in Guatemala, and Team Canada won the gold. So that they will be advancing, and they'll be going to New Zealand in spring of 2020 to play for the Nationals. So, well, the Worlds actually, because I think that one was the Pan Americas. But congratulations to another local athlete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Councillor Shea, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so I, with all of you, participated in the Bentic and Durham visioning sessions, which was really enlightening. We had a good turnout, a particularly good turnout in Durham. I was volunteering at roller skating the other day and tried roller skating for the first time, and it's way harder than it looks. I think I'm done with roller skating. I'll still volunteer, but I'm not going to strap them on. I too was at the Trinity Anglican Church for the 170th anniversary. That was very meaningful. I can't go to the library thing on Friday because I'm attending the Plowman's Dinner in Ayton. And I'll just report that I've been to a couple of meetings with the new Sustainability Committee, and it's been going really well. We've got 13 members. They've organized themselves into 2 subcommittees that are going to be looking at climate change and waste diversion. They've established a number of priorities, achievable goals that they're going to start working on over the next few months in conjunction with Council to really make a difference in how we address climate change in our community. So I'll keep you posted as those, as that progress is made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hergert?
I would like our CAO maybe to actually update the public on the hanging of lights. So we're getting close to Christmas, and I know our vouchers were buying some new lights. So I'd like to take this opportunity to, through you, Madam Mayor, if I could
Yes.
ask our CAO to just update the public on the hanging of the Christmas lights.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Mayor. The lights will be, they're starting to be installed all across West Grey. I know that Newstead has their new lights. Durham's are in our possession, and I believe they're getting installed absolutely before the tree lighting. I can't give you an exact date. Ayton is well underway, and in fact, in conjunction with the Christmas lighting, all the greenery has arrived for the bridge baskets that we're switching from flowers to festive greenery. So we're hoping to have West Grey festive by the first weekend of December.
Thank you for
Thank
that. And
you.
thank you to all the volunteers that are on that committee, the CBC and all the helpers
Thank
that
you.
do that work.
And Madam Mayor, if I may just be, if I may be so bold, just a point of order. Our planner is here, Mr. Davidson, and he would like to take a few minutes while we're still in the public meeting portion of the meeting just to speak to the bylaw and just wrap that piece of the Planning Act up.
So thank you very much for that point of order. I was just going to conclude this portion. We only had one more member of council. The public hearing goes all the way to 8 p.m. And I was just going to conclude this item and then actually go right to our planner for a summary of this particular public hearing and also next steps. So if you don't mind, we only have one more member of council. So thank you for that point of order on that. You absolutely can finish.
Just encouraging everyone from the public to come out to our vision meetings, read it, see where we could improve. This is going to be our vision for West Grey for the next few years, and we're going to plan budgets around it. So encourage everyone to come participate in those meetings. Again, November 30th will be the lighting of the Christmas tree in Ayton, and everyone's welcome. There's sleigh rides, chili, great family day. Grey County Reads has all their new books out and all their new sponsors, basically. So get online, check those new books out, and find a book to go to the library and ask for. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, please.
Okay, I'll start with the Remembrance Day as well because it was amazing. But I'd like to do a shout out to the Lions Club who actually prepared the meal and set up and everything prior, and then they cleaned up afterwards. And I think they did an excellent job. So just want to say thank you to that group as well. There's a Durham Homecoming Committee meeting coming up on the 27th. Everyone who wants to participate in that should show up. It'll be at the Legion and it's 7 p.m. start. I attended the Ayton Grey Seniors of Ontario Committee or group yesterday, and that was interesting to find out all the volunteering that they do. And they'll be serving the chili at the Ayton tree lighting, in case you don't know that they even do that. And they also announced about this Bellima that they have as part of the celebration. And apparently there's only 2 in Canada, and it's like a ball. So if you're curious, I'm not going to say anymore. If you're curious, come on out and see it. I think you'll be amazed at what it is. The vision meetings have already been mentioned. There's also a budget session Friday, which is sort of an introduction education, and encourage people, if you're interested to know about the budget, it's an opportunity to do that. And also, concerned citizens have raised the issue about the cars still in the river, in the Saugeen River in Ayton, and I've been working with some people to try to get that resolved, and it'll progress along, hopefully a little faster now. We've got everybody cooperating, and just keep people up to date on what's happening there, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that does conclude item 9. We're still within the time for our public hearing, and so noted, Madam CAO, thank you for the comment. And I am now going to ask our municipal planner, Ron Davidson, to take us through the keeping of hens / housekeeping bylaw, please.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
So what council will be looking at right now, or they're discussing right now, are 2 things that are directly related to one another. One's known as the hen bylaw. That's passed under the Municipal Act. But in order to allow for hens, not only do you have to have a hen bylaw in place, but we have to amend the zoning bylaw as well. Because right now, the West Grey zoning bylaw does not allow for livestock of any sort on any property that's zoned residential or any lot in the countryside zoned A1, A2 or A3 that's under 5 acres or 2 hectares in size. This is something that your council has discussed, I believe, quite a bit in the past. There was an opportunity for members of the public to get involved through an online survey. Thank you. And anyways, this is what it's led to. So we have prepared a draft. Two draft bylaws. Mark Turner, the clerk, prepared the bylaw that's called the hen bylaw under the Municipal Act, and I have prepared the bylaw that's going to amend the zoning bylaw. We use the loose term housekeeping bylaw because it's just something that it applies across the board to all properties in West Grey, or can apply to all properties in West Grey, and not just to one particular property. So having said that, right now we're having our public meeting to consider the bylaw that's proposing to amend the West Grey zoning bylaw. This is a little bit different than what council is used to. Usually we have a bylaw that is permanent, and it's dealt with under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The way this draft bylaw has been worded, it is a temporary use bylaw. It's good for 1 year. The council can revisit it after 1 year. That's your prerogative. And if you care to renew it or extend it, we will go through the same process again. You just can't pass a bylaw without going through the proper channels, just like we are this time. So this is an opportunity, and by the sounds of it, there's really nobody here interested in speaking, I guess, other than me. But if I have to say this, members of the public, this is your opportunity to speak. If you don't say something now or put something in writing prior to council adopting the zoning bylaw amendment, your right to appeal, should you wish to do so, to the LPAT, which is Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, your rights will be basically removed. So just speak now or forever say your piece, basically. But give me a couple more minutes. So this draft zoning bylaw amendment, like I said, is going to, it will allow for, on a temporary use, the keeping of hens up to 6 in the urban areas. So on any lot zoned residential, and out in the countryside on undersized farm lots. This zoning bylaw amendment that I'm speaking of cross-references the hen bylaw. That's a different document. That the hen bylaw goes into greater detail about not only the number of hens you can have, but the coops, where they're located, what you have to do to maintain the coop. There's a registration, I believe, for if you want to keep hens, you have to notify the municipality. Again, that's a separate entity, but it is a bylaw that council will be dealing with at some point. This application was, there's notice given in the newspaper. Agencies were were asked for a comment. I'm not aware of any comments coming back, but the clerk would probably know better than I would. That's essentially it. There's not much more to say.
I will take questions from members of council for sure, and then ask in the audience again. But I wonder, Mr. Davidson, what would the next steps be?
Okay. So the next step is, after this public meeting closes, it's up to council to decide if they want to adopt the zoning bylaw amendment. I'm not sure if you want to do that tonight or wait for the next council meeting. That's your prerogative. Should you approve it, a notice will be placed in the newspaper again, and there will be a 20-day appeal period. Following that, with no appeals, it comes into effect. At the same time, you'll have to pass the hens bylaw under the Municipal Act. I didn't write it. I'm not an expert on the Municipal Act, but it's my understanding there's no opportunity to appeal a bylaw passed. Carrie's nodding her head. No opportunity to appeal a bylaw passed under the Municipal Act, but the one we're dealing with tonight under the Planning Act, it can be appealed.
So we do have both of the proposed bylaws attached to the agenda with regard to this public hearing. Would you, in your opinion, suggest that it be that these bylaws be put on a subsequent council meeting, or what would your response be? And I'd also look to Madam CAO?
Yeah, that would be my preference, only because, well, maybe there's other reasons, but one of which is if any agency comments did respond, and typically we do hear back from the county and the Conservation Authority, as council's
Yes.
well aware, I'm not aware of those comments. And given the situation, we might want to wait till the clerk comes back and he can tell us if there were any comments that we need to address.
Agreed, and I do agree with that. Madam CAO, is that also, would you like to comment on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Davidson. I also agree with that. I mean, this is an important decision. I would like to make sure that council has all the information that Mr. Turner may have.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to go to members of council. I think Councillor Hamilton, did you have your hand up first? And then Councillor Hutchinson then.
No, I'm good, thank you.
All
No
right.
questions, thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'd just like to make the public aware that this is a one-year trial period. So once the one-year period expires, then as a council, I believe, my understanding is we'll be evaluating where we're at. And at that time, either do an extension or cancel. I'm not sure what that looks like when we come to that point, but we have the one-year trial period in place, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Davidson, any comment on that?
I would agree. I'm not sure how it unfolds after 1 year, just to speak frankly here. If council decides not to continue with this or not to adopt another temporary or perhaps a permanent one. If you decide at that point, we don't want to do this any longer, you will have some people with hens and coops.
Yes.
And I'm not sure legally if they're entitled to stay, likely not. Might be an interesting situation though when you try to get them to remove those hens from those coops from the property.
Okay, thank you. Any questions here? Okay, questions on this side? Councillor Townsend, then Councillor Hergert, please.
Not a question, just a comment.
Sure.
I'm glad to see that we would not pass it tonight because even the bylaw, the way it's worded, it says it comes into force today, and yet we have an appeal period. And as you say, someone could comment, and then we're kind of copy twixt in between. So if
Agreed.
it had said, and subsequent to the appeal period, I would have been more comfortable, but that solves it, so thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hergert.
I have an article from I like to cite my source, so it's Poultry Magazine, Tuesday, September 10th, 2019, submitted by Warren and Marion Becker, Normanby residents. Many backyard flocks not following proper hygiene. So I'm going to spare our committee or our council the entire article, but a couple excerpts from this would include the University of Guelph has performed some research and as cited, quoted, University of Guelph researchers are the first to uncover that many Ontario backyard birds are carrying dangerous pathogens and a significant number of flock owners are not following proper hygiene practices. Down the article a bit, the team asked small flock owners to voluntarily submit any birds who died on their properties to AHL, which would be Animal Health Laboratory at the University of Guelph, for a post-mortem examination. They also asked the owners to fill out a questionnaire about their infection control practices. Skipping down a little further, infectious diseases were the most common killer the team found, causing 62% of deaths. Mixed respiratory disease caused by a combination of bacteria, viruses, and fungi were found to be the primary cause of death in 21% of the birds, and Marek's disease, M-A-R-E-K'(S), Marek's disease, which causes fatal tumors, caused 11% of the deaths. Skipping down further, we wouldn't expect backyard chicken owners to apply the same biosecurity practices used within commercial flocks, but there are certainly steps that flock owners should be taking. So this article, fairly recent, was submitted by a farmer, a local farmer. We've heard from developers, potential new home developers in our area, quite concerned with what the restrictions would be in a residential setting. We've heard from commercial farmers about the biosecurity hazards and their practices of what they have to do for their own farms. I'm quite concerned about the safety, health and safety of our citizens with this proposed bylaw. But I would also ask that we could, I mean, this is a university very close to us, could we follow this model of post-mortem sending the bird to Guelph and just ensuring that we have some sort of line on what kind of disease, what kind of practice the animal farmers are taking. So I would look for some sort of, data collection during this 1-year trial period that we could actually assess the data after the 1 year.
Okay, so I think if council chooses not to pass these bylaws tonight, and I'm kind of getting an indication that that is the case, we could take a look at that and see what information we need to glean from the university, and I think that's something that we can have reported back before the passage of the bylaw, and whether that comes as key performance indicators, or we'll have that discussion. Okay, is there anything further from our members of council at this point? Okay, so absolutely. Yep.
I just want to make sure everybody understands how we've arrived at where we are now, because there was a survey that went out to the community, and the majority that responded was very high 70s, if not low 80s, from what just memory, and that's why we're where we're at now. So once this runs for a year, we have the opportunity, if people want to get involved with this and they've got some opinions similar to this article here, then it's time to participate and bring your thoughts back into it, because I'm sure we'll go back out to the community after a year. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware how we got to where we are now.
Good, and well said. Thank you, Deputy. So at this point, before I go back to Mr. Davidson, if there's any additional comments, I'd like to just go to the audience and say, is there anyone that wishes to speak to our public meeting, Keeping of Hens / Housekeeping Bylaw? Yes, please go ahead, Robin. Robin, when you get there and press the button on the right, would you mind just stating your name, please? Thank you very much, Adam, for assisting. Thank you. That's okay. Great.
Robin Gingrich. I'm reading this, and my concern is, I'm all for the chickens. Don't get me wrong, and I did do the survey, but still, from the survey in this, I am still very concerned, as Councillor Herget brought up, about the disease and about the cleanliness of these chicken coops. Living in town, I see many people who keep their properties very well, and I also see many who do not. And I am very concerned, especially with the upkeep that we have with some people with their dogs. Is this going to, in effect, end up with the chickens as well? And if such, what are the severity? Does that mean people will have their license for their hens taken away? If it becomes that, that's where I'm concerned. Or how strictly is that going to be adhered to?
I think I would go to our planner with regard to comment on the bylaw, but also, Madam CAO, with regard to enforcement and how that would be addressed. And either one of you can take the mic first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will speak to the enforcement. Once this bylaw is passed, if and when it is passed, it becomes a bylaw just like all of our others, which would be complaint-driven. So if a citizen sees a challenge with the keeping of the coops or the condition for the hens, they need to just simply contact the office, will submit the official complaint, and then the bylaw officer would go investigate and do the enforcement necessary.
Okay. And is there any comment, Mr. Davidson, from your perspective with the bylaws?
Just reiterating that, in this case, we'd have two bylaws that we would be enforcing, one under the Municipal Act and one under the Planning Act. So it'd be, you'd have the bylaw enforcement officer breathing down your neck for two reasons, I guess.
All right. Actually, good point. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak with regard to this public hearing? All right, thank you. So we do have about 20 minutes left with regard to this item. Mr. Davidson, is there anything further for comment or with regard to the process within the public hearing that you need to address at this point?
Yeah, I have nothing further, Your Worship.
All right, so what I'm proposing, first off, are there any other questions from members of council at this point? Okay. So, Mr. Davidson, what I'm proposing is that, obviously, we keep the public meeting open till 8 p.m. You're stating that you don't have anything further with regard to information. Madam CIO, is there anything further?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just, council would need to make their decision after the 8 p.m. deadline.
Right. So we will just watch for 8 p.m. if there's any other individuals that come in, and we'll inquire if they're here for this specific purpose. But after, right at 8 p.m., at the conclusion of the public portion, then I'd be just asking council how they wish to address this matter. And if there's any questions, we certainly have our planner with us. All right, does that sound the pathway forward on this? Sound good. All right, so let's look here. All right, so we're moving, before we go to item 10, members of council, I've been reminded by our Director of Finance and Treasurer, there's one other motion that we need to address. And it is moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that the minutes of the council meeting held on November 5th, 2019, the minutes of the special council meeting held on November 12th, 2019, and the minutes of the special committee of the whole meetings held on October 29th, 2019, and November 6th, 12th, and 13th, 2019 be adopted as printed, and further that the minutes of the West Grey committees, A2, other than the minutes from the Ayton Rec, as I understand, be received as circulated, and further the minutes of the other committees, A3, be received as circulated. Any other comments? Like there was some comments with regard to the Ayton Rec that we'll pull over into the new business because there was more discussion on that. So any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Councillor Hutchinson.
I just question, did we miss the vote? Is that why we're doing this now? I
Yes.
question that. I
Yes.
guess we voted on my ask to pull the Ayton records,
Yes.
right? Or Ayton
That's right.
report. Okay,
That is
that's why.
correct.
I
And
wondered
that's-
about that.
That's why the director mentioned that there was one other set of motions that I did not do, and I know that we absolutely have to do it. So I note that your item with regard to the Ayton Rec minutes is pulled, but this was just something that we need to fine tune, so I don't want to miss it. So that's the clarification. On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Director. I'll give you that one over. All right. So with regard to item 10, delegations, we do not have any. Item 11, business arising from the previous meeting. Okay. From the previous meeting. So we're now on item 12, which is staff reports. Director of Finance and Treasurer, would you mind walking us through your, there's two items on your report. Yeah, thank you.
So the first one is just the accounts. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So with regard to the approval of voucher number 21-2019, are there any questions with regard? Yep, Councillor Hergert.
I just have one question. It relates to the lights, and there were different amounts. I just wanted to ensure that we were using the downtown revitalization money for those, and just if you could confirm that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, and some are topping up from like the Ayton Rec.
Recreation.
So there's some, but the grant money from Main Street, but also there is some additional funds from other sources that will be applied to some of those items as well.
And we should have a very bright Christmas, because it looks like we're buying a lot of lights this year. I know our communities will be happy about that.
Councillor Townsend, please.
Yes, on page 4 of the voucher report, there is a indication that there was an installation of a catch basin in the Sunvale subdivision, and I'm wondering, does that get charged back to the developer, or does it actually come out of the funds on hand, or do we pick that cost up ourselves?
I believe that is part of our costs, not the developer's cost, that portion, that one there.
Further? Councillor Hutchinson.
A couple items. First of all, I was sort of curious about the Recreation Department buying a mannequin family. And I'm not sure, are we in the business of training CPR or something? I'm not sure what that was all about. So I presume that's what it was for. So that's on page 75. Can someone enlighten me on that?
Yeah, so our recreation manager is looking at offering some courses on CPR. And so these were the mannequins. We'll also be able to do some in-house CPR training for staff as they need their certificates renewed every year, and partnering with fire and police for training as well for annual, or however often these certificates for CPR need to be done.
So to go with that, I don't know if, CL, if you had any, through you, Mayor, any discussions about doing public sessions, but sometimes people have to go to Hanover to get retrained for that, recertified.
Comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor. Our recreation supervisor is is an approved trainer in CPR. So he is also, in addition to offering it to public, offering it to staff, working with our police and fire services. So this is a significant investment because he'll be able to leverage it for many people to take that training.
Thank you. Please.
And one further item, just mentioning Christmas lights, that just to make note that the new Christmas lights that are coming to Durham are partially funded by the BIA. They put in about 50% of the cost for the downtown core. And I believe, just reading from Facebook, that the Lions Club in Newstead have purchased the new lights for Newstead.
That is correct.
And they've chose to defer their monies that would go towards those lights until a later date. So just to let people know that has happened.
Yeah, it's just a really exciting time in West Grey. We've got some really bright Christmas lights, new ones out there, and I just think it's going to be absolutely wonderful out there. Councillor Hergert, yep.
I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that Normanby is also contributing a part of
Good.
their fundraise money. So thank you for all those volunteers as well.
Good. No, that's perfect. All right, any other questions with regard to voucher number 21-2019? All right, well, I do have a motion before me, and I'm taking my glasses off. So it is moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance be authorized to pay the accounts presented in voucher number 21-2019 in the amount of $588,355.46 of the Municipality of West Grey. Questions? Comments on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Now, Director Mighton, on the next item, which is the West Grey Police Services Board recommendation, did you want to start the discussion? And then we do have our Chief of Police here, and then I would invite him to the podium to speak. So.
Yes, so the Police Board has reviewed this and is making a request to Council for utilization of part of their Municipal Modernization Grant Fund that we had received earlier this year for purchase of a software program that will be utilized within the cruisers for the police department.
Okay, thank you. Chief Martin, I'd invite you to the podium to provide additional information, please.
Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, Council. Just to go back to an earlier point by Councillor Hutchison, we shared the costs with the municipality on those CPR mannequins, as we are required to do CPR to level C every year, and we were renting the mannequins in the past. If you look at the number of times we've rented them, purchasing them made sense to us and will save us money down the road, and we're able to offer our services out because we have 2 first aid and CPR instructors on staff to other municipalities as well. Hopefully that completes the package for your question.
Thank you.
Response to the request for the Hexagon programs, the West Grey Police does have workstations in their cars. They are affectionately referred to as dumb workstations. They hold data on them. We can do certain things, reports. We can pull up certain programs that we have on it for information purposes. If we were to go with the Hexagon program, it gives us the ability to make them into smart terminals. We can then dispatch from Owen Sound to our terminals directly. That allows the officers to access all the information they need going to the call on the screen rather than waiting for a dispatcher to relay it to them. It allows us the ability to see where everyone is all the time. So for an officer safety purpose, we can actually see where our cars are deployed and where our people are, especially if they need assistance. The other point is it'll reduce our response times because then we can go for a closest to the car, closest to the call type scenario, or if a person is just outside town, rather than sending the car that's the furthest one away, it will allow us to be able to improve our response times, will to improve our safety of our members. And it also allows them to create generated calls inside rather than waiting for calls for dispatch to go through to Owen Sound and come up. It will save us time. It also gives us some programming abilities that allows us to have dashboards. So we'll be able to easily access what our officers are doing for performance measures and performance evaluations, and to see where we need to improve as a police service. Subject to any other questions council may have, that would be everything that I'm asking for.
Thank you very much, Chief. Questions from council. Councillor Townsend? Yes.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what the focus on the service delivery impact would be, but I think you've covered that very well. Thank you.
Councillor Herger?
I have several questions, actually. Is this Hexagon program, is this the only program that does this? Or how does it shape up to other programs that would offer something similar?
It is the only one that does it. There is another one available, but the other one that is available will be about 3 times the cost.
Would be, sorry?
Triple the cost for us.
Triple the cost, okay. So would we go out to an RFP, or no, this is a sole
This
source?
is a sole source provided to us by the Owen Sound Police Service. Owen Sound is going to the system, as well as Coburg, as well as Saugeen Shores.
Okay.
We are, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. As they are the keeper of the dispatch key, for lack of a better term, what they go with is the equipment that we need to have as well, because we don't have say over what they purchase to put in their dispatch center. So they've done the research, came up with Hexagon as the cheapest option for them, and our partner police services that are sharing dispatch are going with that program as well.
Okay, so does that bring dispatch back to us then?
No.
Okay, so we're still paying for dispatch and we're doing this, which is somewhat of a two-way communication from car to dispatch.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. I guess what I'm asking next would be, why do we need the software now? It's mid-year and we're mid-budget. Why would we not hold it off until next year?
We have the opportunity with the grant money as well, rather than putting into my draft budget. So what I'm trying to do is keep the ratepayer costs as low as possible for municipality by using the grant, the funds for the modernization grant.
Okay. And pardon me, when does that money have to be used by, if I might ask?
It was an unconditional grant received at the beginning of the year, so there is no deadlines or requirement on that.
So we could actually hold off until January?
We have used it for several items throughout this year that were unbudgeted items. So if you were being consistent in your application, you would approve this request as well, regardless. The other items weren't budgeted either. We've used it for the eScribe software, the website update, the Tom Rooms update, and the operational and service delivery review. So all those items that we've used, proposed to use it for, were unbudgeted items as well.
Thank you for bringing up the operational and service review. Is the police included in that operational and service review?
No, they're a separate act that they operate under, so we do not, they do not get brought into our organization.
So is there any plan, I guess, you know what, here's the next thing. I don't receive any minutes on the police service board, and I know that's how it actually works. I think as a council member and the public, I've heard quite a bit of chatter about this is the second largest budget item, and we'd like to know a little more information about what we use money on. And I don't mean to, overextend my council position. I know there's separate legislation that governs that, but I'm sure that the public wants that information. So
There's two ways that it'll be achieved. We do have a plan that our chief will be coming to a committee of the whole meeting or a council meeting. I would have to check with our clerk when it's scheduled, and a presentation will be made on the annual report.
Sure.
So that is absolutely going to be a comprehensive presentation. And also certainly during budget deliberations, that will be a very detailed report as well. So I think those are two great opportunities that will be very interesting.
I have a couple last questions.
Yep.
You may have seen our strategic vision plan, maybe not. I was curious how this might fit into to that vision, and maybe that's too much of a question? Maybe you haven't had a chance to review that.
Before, I'm just going to interject, Chief. I would say that our chief has been out to a vision session, and certainly he participated in New Stat. So he's very aware of that vision, the draft vision plan. So that's my segue. Any further comment?
I was going to wait and see until we see the finalized complete plan before we can comment what it is. To answer a couple of your points you've made, yes, we are the second largest budget. If the public wishes to come and as member to council come, our police service boards are open and you can attend our open sessions on the meetings. We have nothing to hide in our open sessions. Please feel free to attend. In terms of doing things now, there's the council's choice which you wish to do with it, but I am loath to hold off on anything that improves the safety of my officers.
Good. Well said.
Is there any timeline on buying this with the buying power of Owen Sound, et cetera, et cetera?
The quote expires November 29th.
November 29th. Does this hit on any predictive policing where you could almost forecast where officers would need to be at certain times? Anything like that?
If you go back to the dashboard studies that we see where our calls for service, we use predictive policing all the time based on our calls for service and where our problems area are. This will be able to allow us to download where our cars are and see the paths they take and what areas they're in most of the time. So this definitely falls into our predictive models.
Okay. And then the last question would be, you're asking for up to $20,000. Is this scalable that if we took on another service, we could add that location, that area in? Does it cost any more? Is it per capita? How do we arrive at $20,000?
$20,000 for the quote for the install and the upgrade is about $18,800. On the recommendations of Finance Director Mighton, we directed to go up to $20,000 just to cover anything that may come up. We have had many discussions with Owen Sound, and $20,000 will cover it without any surprises for council and me having to come back and ask for more money. In terms of our fleet, this will do our entire fleet that we have right now. When that fleet is replaced, all of the equipment that is in those cars goes back into another car, so we're not looking at adding any more equipment in the future for it.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further?
I just would assume that this software would be upgradable, updated, like it's all the time, real time updated information, and upgrade at intervals, as needed.
There are yearly software upgrades
Okay.
that come with it that Owen Sound will be responsible for installing for us. It's part of our IT contract that comes along with everything we do.
Do those cost any more?
Yes, there will be an annual fee of about $4,000 added to our IT budget. Right now, our IT budget's running about 63% used, so we are quite comfortable in the parameters that we have with it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. There's a couple key things that you said there that I'm going to support this. Response time was a big thing. You said that it's going to be efficiencies there. And I think the other important factor is the safety of your officers, so our officers. So you will have my support on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. They are your officers. They work for the municipality, and they're the one thing that keeps you up at night is making sure that they're okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Councillor Hamilton? And then, yes.
Thank you, Chief, for the presentation and tying in how it's modernizing your fleet, it's making you more efficient and keeping everyone safe. So I appreciate your presentation. And my question would be for staff about the modernization grant. Would there be, I'm wondering if we should be asking our other departments, or I'd like to kind of cast out a net saying, how do you see the best use of this modernization fund, and give everyone the opportunity to share their ideas so we can see what the ideas are and start prioritizing, because we are kind of eating away at this elephant one piece at a time, and before you know it, there'll be nothing left. So just a question to staff, is there a way to kind of canvas and gather some ideas so we can see a bigger picture and start prioritizing the use of these funds?
Go to Director Might and then Madam CIO after that, please.
Yep, it'll be something as we build our budgets that
Yes.
we're trying to build into. But
Thank you for that. Madam CIO.
And thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Madam Mayor. One of the goals of the service review, if we are successful in finding a proponent that is able to do that work for us, would be to identify opportunities for alternate funding, different grants that we should be looking at. That's, you know, I want the finance piece to be a part of that review, and, you know, identifying, you know, fits for these kinds of grants that are a little bit open-ended would be a recommendation that I would be looking for from that process as well.
Good, very exciting. Yep, very good. So I'm cognizant, I'm going to go to Councillor Hutchinson, but I'm cognizant that we're just following the time for the public hearing, and then I'm going to go out to conclude that public hearing and then ask council what they wish to do. But before that, let's see if we can address this matter. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just to say that I think anything we can do to increase the safety of our officers is worthwhile. Just one thought. Is it PlayStation compatible by any chance?
Here we go. Resist.
The answer is no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anything, Councillor Shea, please?
I don't have to ask you any questions about this, Chief, because this has already been presented at Police Service Board where I serve along with the mayor. And yeah. And so I had all my questions answered there, but I do want to take up Councillor Hergert's point about communication of what's going on at that board. And I do think it's an admirable idea to have members of boards and committees reporting occasionally to council what's going on in their boards and committees. So I think we should try to find a way to incorporate that idea.
Absolutely. And I think we're looking at, through Committee of the Whole, to make that more relevant, I think, in the new year, for sure. And certainly during budget deliberations, we'll have, I know we spoke about this, and our Director of Finance and Treasurer will address this when we're going through budget, of having the chairs come out and speak on status reports, for sure. Okay, anything further? Okay, because I'm cognizant about the full agenda, but I do have a motion before me, moved by Doug Hutchinson, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the West Grey Police Services Board request for utilization up to $20,000 of the Municipal Modernization Grant for the purchase of Hexagon mobile workstation software to outfit the police fleet. Comments on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And I do want to say on this one, it is a unanimous. Chief, thank you very much for being here. All right, so that completes the Director of Finance and Treasurer's report. I do wish members of council and the public to go back to the public meeting, keeping of hens / housekeeping bylaw. Members of the audience, is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item? For the first, I'll call it for the second and the third. Well, thank you for being here on this public hearing. I'm going to now go over to our municipal planner. Any final comments, and then a pathway for next steps before I look to council?
Sure, I have nothing further to add. It's the ball's in council's court, I say respectfully, to deal with both bylaws. And if you do decide to approve it either tonight or in the future, the bylaw under the Planning Act will be subject to a 20-day appeal period.
So I just want to go back. Your recommendation, you were suggesting that the bylaws not be passed tonight, that we put them over for consideration to, I'm going to say, perhaps the December 17th council meeting, because our clerk can go through the file with regard to comments. And I'm just looking, based on that comment, if you have any further comments. And then, Madam CAO, could you please comment on that?
No, I stand by that. We should wait.
Okay. Thank you, Madam CIO, then.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And from a staff perspective, we would appreciate if council would consider pushing this to December 17th. That will give me and the clerk enough time to prepare what we need to bring it back.
Okay. Thank you. So any further comments? We've concluded the comments for the public meeting. Then we're just at the stage where I'd be going to council for a path forward then. Correct? We're all good? All right, members of council, how do you wish to proceed? Councillor Hamilton, please.
If a motion's required, I would move that we put this be on the December 17th council agenda.
December 17th.
Both the bylaws.
Both bylaws?
Yes,
okay.
please.
That's good. And Deputy Mayor seconding that. So That's good. We're having that written down so that the bylaws that we're dealing with are, it does not have a number, but this is a bylaw, being a bylaw to regulate the keeping of hens in the municipality of West Grey. And then the other bylaw proposed, a bylaw to further amend the zoning bylaw number 37-2006 of the municipality of West Grey. We have a mover and a seconder for that, and I would just be looking for comments, clarifications, or questions. Councillor Herger.
Further to my discussion earlier about the post-mortem of a bird, I would like language put into the bylaw, even for this 1 year, that we collect that data as well. So I would look to leave that with staff to bring us back something to include the results of the post-mortem of a bird.
Okay. With that, Madam CAO, is that something that could be looked at with our clerk and then brought back to the 17th for consideration?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, so noted.
Okay. All right, Councillor Shea.
I'm nervous about just reopening the debate. I think we had consensus that we were going to go forward with the bylaw as, I'm prepared to put it off to a future meeting. I think that's a good idea. But to start adding new elements to it, I think that means we're going to have to re-debate, several clauses within that. Maybe this new clause will contravene some clauses that were already in there.
Okay.
My suggestion is that we leave it as is for now and re-examine it when the renewal comes up a year from now to see if we want to tweak things at that point.
Okay. All right. All right. And then what we could do is just have a comment back from staff on that article anyway, but that's fine. So we have with us that it is moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Deputy Mayor, that the bylaws for keeping of hens and the zoning bylaw amendment be deferred to the December 17, 2019 council meeting. All right. So we'll deal with it at that time. Is any other comments or questions on the motion? Yep.
Sorry, just to clarify, will we be asking staff then to bring back some comment about this post-mortem bid, or not?
I think there's an opportunity that staff could comment on that portion of it, but we've got the bylaw before us. Would you clarify that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm not proposing that we change the bylaw. What I would like to do is have a conversation with the clerk about what we do in the reporting at the end of the 1 year pilot, what that might look like.
Like the items that we're reporting on, or that
Correct.
council would expect to report back on?
Yes, correct.
Very good. Okay, further? On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. All right, thank you. So we have concluded that public meeting. So now we are on to our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works staff report. Director Sherinsky, would you please comment on your report with respect to the Connecting Link funding?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Report I have here before you is to essentially apply for the Ministry of Transportation Connecting Link program for 2019-2020. And essentially, what I have before you here is what I'm going to need from council is a resolution to support this application as part of the application process. And it's for the bridge, the Garifraxa Bridge on Highway 6. And we've applied for funding for this earlier this year, and we were unsuccessful. So I would like to put in another application for Connecting Link funding, and the funding is due November the 22nd.
So I will go to our members of council and ask any questions. What are you going to do to make it different with the opportunity for success?
Well, I can, I'll re-examine the scope of the project and so forth, and try and add some, I mean, the scope is written quite well already with the use and the traffic counts and so forth with Highway 6, but what I can do is try to rework those words to try to make the application more successful.
Okay, thank you. Going to members of council. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, I think my first question was, we're just talking the bridge rather than the whole street, which is, we've talked about the connecting link and doing downtown Main Street.
Right.
This is just the bridge we're talking.
That's correct.
Right. And I believe we've had some discussions, and I think even some successful discussions with the Ministry of Transportation about supporting rehabilitation rather than waiting till things falls down and then having to rebuild a bridge, right? So I think our past director did a lot of work on trying to sell the idea that rehabilitation is the route to go. So I hope that this time they're listening and that we'd be successful, because now is the time to get it done. So I support this going forward.
Thank you very much. And I also want to say, Director, thank you very much for bringing this forward. We really appreciate it. So I'm just going to look over to my left now. Councillor Townsend and then Councillor Herger, please.
Similar question that was just asked, but slightly differently. Recognizing it's come forward a few times, and we have had conversations that have not led to success, is there any communication we can have with MTO around why it was rejected, or was it just volume of requests, or why isn't it, high enough on the priority list to get it? Are we omitting something? Is there information they need that we're not providing? So get a little more specific, look for opportunities where it's there. I know we can do that with grants and it works. You can say to them, why didn't it quite work, and that was fine. I'm not quite sure how much we can influence the provincial entities that way, so.
What I can do, Your Worship, is I can make every effort to get in touch with the Ministry of Transportation through the correspondence that we received this July, stating that we were unsuccessful, so I can use those channels and make every effort to try to see what I can do differently here.
Great. Further? Okay, you're welcome. Councillor Herger.
Sure, I agree with the desire to have some feedback on this matter, previous applications and so on, but that might make our application stronger this time. I also would like, as a mover or seconder on this, I'd like to make sure that MPP Walker is circulated as well. That way he can be in the loop of what applications we have. Maybe we have some in our court.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I've just amended it slightly in here. I can tell you that there is a connect with MPP Walker in everything that we do that relates to the province. So I've just added that in. You are the seconder, so that's fine. As mover, Councillor Townsend, would you be okay with MPP Walker being circulated on this?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Further, I'm looking to my right. All right. I'm looking to my left. Is there anybody else that wish to make a comment on this? Well, then I will read the motion. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the application for a Connecting Link grant for the rehabilitation of the Gare-Fraxis Street Bridge in a financial partnership with the Ministry of Transportation, in brackets, MTO, close bracket, for the Connecting Link project, and further that MPP Bill Walker be circulated with respect to this application. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. I did wait on that one. It was bound to happen at some time that we would just have a little bit of a delay. It does carry, and it does carry, so thank you very much. And it did carry unanimously, so that's great. Director, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That is the only item on your report. All right, so now we're going to move to the clerk's report. There are 2 items on this. Madam CIO, will you be handling these? All right, we'll see how swiftly they go. So on the clerk's report, the first item is the Durham Homecoming 2022. We've had a request from the Homecoming, well, Harriet Mitchell has indicated a group of citizens have begun working on the Homecoming 2022, and they are requesting or suggesting that Councillor Townsend be appointed as the council representative on the Durham Homecoming 2022 committee. So do you have any further information to shed light on this?
At this time, Madam Mayor, I do not, just what the clerk has presented.
Okay, is there, so they're only looking for one member of council at this time?
At this time, Madam Mayor, they are. However, I don't think they would be opposed if council sees fit to add a second or third member.
Okay.
It's at your discretion, truly.
All right, so I'm just going to open it. I do have a motion, but Councillor Townsend, please.
Yeah, I have two comments. Harriet mentioned it over a year ago about doing it, and I had indicated I'd be available. I was the only counselor at the committee meeting previously that actually signed up for anything, but
Yes.
that should not preclude it happening just because of those reasons. Also, I agree that they're going to ask to be noted as an ad hoc committee for council, and it would be appropriate to wait till then. The other thing, I was going to raise a second person anyway, because over that 2 or 3 year window, there's going to be times a person is not going to be available. They still need the support, so it doesn't make sense to do one. And I'd be curious to determine if anyone else has the same interest. And so, I would agree with the recommendation that's put forward to wait until the request for an ad hoc committee comes in, and also to give time to see if anyone else is interested.
So I do have a motion here that I haven't read into the record, but it is a motion to appoint. So are you, like I do have this motion, but unless you're suggesting that we defer the appointment and you put that motion forward, would you, is there any reason why we wouldn't put the appointment forward? I'm seeking clarity on
Yeah,
your
there's no
statement.
reason not to do it, but,
Not to do it,
I
okay.
understand where they came from, so I could support it if it went down that path.
Okay,
So.
okay. Any further comment, Madam CAO?
Through Madam Mayor, excuse me, my understanding is that they would like an appointment this evening, not waiting until they request the ad hoc status. And if council would like to appoint more than one member, it's appropriate to do it at this time as well.
Okay, so I will, unless there's any other comments, I will put this into the record, and then I'll read who moved and seconded, read it, and then I'll ask for any comments, and then we can move this along in whatever fashion council wishes. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, second by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints Councillor Townsend to the Durham Homecoming 2022 Committee. Comments on this, Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I'm just looking for some history about past homecomings and how they've been, have we had ad hoc committees and councillor appointments? I'm looking for an answer.
Yeah, I'm going to look towards Director Mighton on this, and then I can probably look over here as well.
Yeah, I know when they got to the point where they were the ad hoc committee, there was a council appointed then. I don't believe it came up until that point, but that's going by memory. I know at the time, once they really got into it, then council member was at the table and was like the liaison back and forth.
Okay. Further?
Thank you. And so what would be the role of having a councillor, that connection to council in particular? What's the function of having a councillor there at the committee?
So when it gets down to them being appointed as an ad hoc committee of council, we may want to reach out to our insurance carriers because just appointing a committee that we have no commitment or involvement for insurance reasons is not appropriate. We need to participate and be in control, care and control of the committee.
Okay.
Or it shouldn't be under our insurance. It's a separate entity. But our insurance carriers can speak to some of the specifics of that, but we need to be involved. It needs to be, we have to have some ownership to it because we are being responsible for the actions and the events of this if we're providing insurance.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for explaining it that way. And then just wondering if there was anybody else at the table who's interested. And then just one more thought to Councillor Townsend's question about if we needed a couple councillors. I wonder if we had like, not a backup councillor, but if we had an alternate councillor, I think I'd be more comfortable with that at this time.
Okay.
But just wanted to check in with the group to see if anyone else was interested too. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you putting your name forward?
I may be interested. I'd just like to check my agenda. I've had some discussions with Harriet, and she did contact me when they first started to get things rolling and sort of run some things by me. And so I'm just hesitant to commit because of other things right at this time. But I think as time goes on that I may be available. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else interested or any other comments with regard to this? Councillor Hergert and Councillor Shea.
I would just say that not being a member doesn't preclude any of us from participating, and absolutely will all be supportive of this too. So thank you for the people that have stepped forward and have started and initiated this process.
Sure, thank you for that. Councillor Shea.
No, I think it's evident that we're all supportive of this, but I think the ask today is for one councillor to be appointed at this time, and I think we should respect that request and follow through on that. If at a later date, through conversations, Councillor Townsend and the committee decides that they want an alternate or a second, that we should entertain that discussion at that time.
Okay. Yep, Councillor Hergert.
So as it relates to a committee of council, then we would be looking for minutes and so on of a meeting. So I know that they're in their, let's say, infant stages of this committee, and I actually think that maybe it would be better to hold off a little bit until we clarify with our insurance company and the requirements with this group, just so there's that communication back and forth about what we expect as a committee of council. I'm absolutely supportive of Councillor Townsend being on the committee at a later point, but I think that right now it might be somewhat onerous. I know that they keep good minutes anyway. It's there's some teachers in there too, so I know that they keep good minutes and so on. But I just want to clarify, the ad hoc committee, what we expect, when we expect things, and so on. And I don't know, is there any budget attached to the ad hoc committee initially?
Director Wrighton?
Not unless you approve a budget amount when you go through, but historically, we have not provided budget dollars.
Okay. So I do have the motion before me. I am going to, before I go,
I was going to, maybe we can make amendment. I was just going to suggest that maybe we can vote to suggest Councillor Townsend, but maybe make it so that it's once they form their ad hoc committee, then we will designate a council member at that time, which will be, could be Councillor Townsend sort of thing, but maybe have it happen, and that way it might force them to come to us and get the ad hoc committee going quicker, so that then once we put a member on there, then everything's in place, right? So I'm suggesting that we, at the time when they come forward and ask for an ad hoc committee, then Councillor Townsend would be our representative.
got it. So we've got the motion here. Let's see if it gets approved. And then when we're communicating with the homecoming committee, we can let them know that when they're I'm going to back up. When they bring forward their request, should they bring forward that request to be an ad hoc committee, we can also address the idea of having an alternate on that. Madam CAO, I see an indication there.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. As I'm reviewing, and I realized the clerk had prepared this motion in the event that this is what council would like to do this evening, but as I review his report a little closer, it appears to me that he's providing two options. The first is the motion that you have in front of you to appoint Councillor Townsend. The second option, though, really clearly says that it may be appropriate for council to appoint a committee member at the time that council considers appointing the ad hoc committee. So Mr. Turner is giving two options. He had prepared a motion for one, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to explore the other option. And in fact, in his report, he's saying waiting until the appointment of the committee gives you the opportunity to determine the expectations of the committee, resulting financial and insurance implications.
Okay. Well, we do have this motion here. Let's see what council wishes to do with it. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints Councillor Stephen Townsend to the Durham Homecoming 2022 Committee. All right, Councillor Shea.
So I'm reading the request from Harriet, and it says precisely that they want to strike an ad hoc committee and then have Councillor Townsend appointed to it. So I would like to make an amendment to that motion so that it says, what is the last phrase?
Appoints Councillor Stephen Townsend to the Durham Homecoming 2022 Committee.
I would say ad hoc committee when it is formed, or once it is formed.
Councillor Hutchinson, would you be okay with that friendly amendment? Councillor Hamilton, would you be okay? So I'm going to read it again, just for clarity. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints Councillor Stephen Townsend to the Durham Homecoming 2022 Ad Hoc Committee when it is formed. Okay? On the motion then, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Super great discussion. So then we do have another item on the clerk's report. This is Grey County Clerk's Department. There is an attachment with regard to a private member's bill. Madam CAO? This is with regard to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing further to add. The clerk's report does include the attachment of what the Dutch reach method is, and as well as the request from Grey County Clerk's Department.
Okay. Okay, comments, questions? Councillor Townsend?
I support bringing in the recommendation and supporting the resolution. The one thing that bothers me with anything that seems to be dealing with bikes and cars is there's never a outreach the other way to say about the bike riders having the same sort of accountability. And this one here is dealing with the drivers. For the representatives of City Council, I hope at some point you'll look at the other side of the coin, because it's always helpful if you have both sides learning and operating in a very safe way. So that's my only observation for the fact that it's there. But I do support actually supporting their resolution.
Okay, further on the left here, further on the right, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to have. It's something that's going to take a lot of time to have happen in this area, I think, to get people used to it, because we just don't have the cyclists. But I mean, if you're a cyclist and you happen to run into a door, you'd appreciate it, just because people aren't always thinking about cyclists as they go down the street and opening their door. If you're in the city, and I experience it all the time, as I have a son that lives in the city and rides a bike, it's, you know, you have to be aware of bikes all the time when you drive in the cities. So up here it's quite as common, but I think it's a step in the right direction. It's going to take some time to teach people to reach with their opposite hand, right? To reach across and open the door, which means you're going to look. I applaud some of these countries but I mean, there's a lot of cyclists in some of the European countries, right? Which is a more common means of transportation than we have. So I would be supportive of it, but I think it's something that's going to take quite some time. And I agree with Councillor Townsend that cyclists have to abide by the rules of the road also. And that's what bothers some people when they see cyclists breaking the rules, but yet they want cooperation from the driver. So I think it's education. It's what it is. So I'd be supportive of this.
Thank you. Further? All right, I do have a motion then. Moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of Grey County Council supporting MPP Merritt Stiles Private Members Bill 89, Teach the Reach Act, to make roads safer for cyclists by ensuring the Dutch Reach method is explained in driver education handbooks and taught in driver education courses approved or licensed by the province. And further, that the supporting letter be forwarded to the Minister of Transportation, Grey County, and local MPP, Bill Walker. Comments on this? On the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. All right, so thank you. So that completes all of the staff reports. We are now moving to item 13, which is proposed bylaws for first and second reading. Those motions with regard to these proposed bylaws are being circulated currently. May I pass that over? It will just be a moment. Okay. 92. Okay. This is 93? Okay. And then I'll just get you to help me after these. Yeah. To put them in the room. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. All right, if I might, I will start with regard to bylaw, proposed bylaw 92. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 92-2019, being a bylaw to adopt the delegation of powers and duties policy for the Municipality of West Grey, in brackets, repeals bylaw number 58-2013, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments? Councillor Hergert.
Page 96, delegation of authority to the CAO regarding hiring, termination, orientation, training, development, and discipline of staff. I thought that we had made an amendment to that delegation of powers and duties policy, and that it would not have recommendation in there. It would just be that it would be completely left to our CAO to handle that matter, if a matter should occur. So just looking for that one amendment, and then I'm comfortable with the rest. So.
Madam CAO.
Yes, thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Mayor. You are correct, that was the recommendation at the time, so thank you for catching that.
Yeah, and I'm seeing nodding from all members of council, so we will make that change, and I'm just going to put as amended, members of council, because that does keep it amended, and it'll be so noted in the change to the bylaw and in the minutes. Anything further with regard to this proposed bylaw? Then on the bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. All right, so now we're dealing with bylaw, thank you, thanks for this help, bylaw 93. All right. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 93-2019, being a bylaw to implement a condition on consent application B14/2019 by rezoning part lots 23 and 24, concession 1, NDR, geographic township of Bentic, in brackets, Gillian and Cody Schenk, ZA-09-19, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments? Yes, please.
Just for the members of the public, November 12th, Committee of the Whole and Committee of Adjustment minutes would have all the details of the recommendation.
Okay, further? On the bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So now we're dealing with 94. Thank you for assisting. So, moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hergert. Be it resolved that bylaw number 94-2019, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 6 to the Municipality of West Grey official plan, in brackets, Goodsky, end of bracket, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Are there any questions? On the bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried, and I am going to say carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Proposed bylaw 95. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 95-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land by the Municipality of West Grey from Kenneth Taylor, described as part of Park Lot 5, north side of Chester Street, Plan 500, Durham, and part of Unnamed Street, Presbyterian Church Survey, Plan 513, Durham, being Part 1 on Plan 16R 7311, West Grey, County of Grey, PIN 37318-0088, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments or questions? Councillor Hergert.
Can you reread the plan number on that? I think you mentioned 513, it's actually Plan 500.
Okay, well, there's two.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the whole thing over.
The PIN number was fine. I'm satisfied with the PIN number. I just was curious about the plan.
Yeah, there's actually two plan numbers
Okay,
referenced.
okay.
So with council's indulgence, I'll go through it again. Be it resolved that bylaw number 95-2019 being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land by the Municipality of West Grey from Kenneth Taylor, described as part of Park, Lot 5, north side of Chester Street, Plan 500, Durham, and part of unnamed street, Presbyterian Church Survey, Plan 513, Durham, being Part 1 on Plan 16, R7311, West Grey, County of Grey, PIN 37318-0088, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with seal of the corporation, engrossed in bylaw book. Okay, no problem at all. Clarity is what we seek, for sure. Any comments or concerns or questions on the bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And that carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. So we have proposed bylaw 96-2019. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, second by Deputy Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw number 96-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land by the Municipality of West Grey from 843279 Ontario Inc., described as LT 16, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham, LT 17, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham, LT 18, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham, PT Park Lot for NS Chester Street W, 5 NS Chester Street W, 6 NS Chester Street W, 7 NS Chester Street W, PL 500, Durham. PT LT 11, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 12, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 13, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 14, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 15, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 6, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 7, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT LT 8, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT Unnamed Street, Presbyterian Church Survey PL 513, Durham. PT 3-6, 9, 12, 14, 16, and 17, 17R 3223, except Part 1, 13R7 311, S/T interest of the municipality, West Grey, being PIN 3738-0076 in brackets LT, end of bracket. Be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments or questions on the motion? Yes? Yeah.
I'm not going to be funny about this, but can we clarify again? Second line from the end. I will not ask you to read that. I appreciate you reading it in full.
Second line from the end.
Second line from the end. So it starts 16 and 17, 17R 3223, except Part 1, 16R 7311.
Okay, so can you just go from the bottom of the paragraph, count the number of sentences up where you're referring to?
Okay, so if I just read it backwards, is LT, then there's a PIN number, being, comma, West Grey, semicolon, I guess, subject to the interest of municipality. Before that, it's
Okay.
16R 7311.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, so that is actually, if we're going backwards, it's 1, 2, 3. It's the fourth line from the end of the paragraph, which starts off 16R7 311. Okay, further? Councillor Hamilton?
Could you please just clarify the PIN number at the very end, the very, very end?
PIN number being PIN 37318-0076 LT in brackets. Okay, further? All right. Anything further? On the bylaw, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Perfect. And thank you for those clarity parts. I very much appreciate it. So on 97? Yep, that's fine. Yep, that's fine. So we just have 2 additional bylaws for circulation, 97-2019 and also 98-2019. Is this 97? Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that bylaw number 97-2019 being a bylaw to further amend bylaw 122-004, being a bylaw to establish a personnel policy manual for the municipality of West Grey and to repeal bylaw number 49-2006, be now read at first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments on the bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. And the last one, which is 98. Moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that bylaw number 98-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 19th, 2019 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments on the bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Carried, I mean. Thank you. All right, that does complete our bylaws. Now we're dealing with new business. The first one that I'd like to address is we're going back to minutes that we pulled with regard to the Ayton Recreation Committee. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, so it's on page 39, where the report was. And I was just curious, they were asking, or they made a motion that the Ayton Rec Committee request 5,000 from West Grey Council to be designated as a fund from which a variety of summer recreation programs for the year 2020, 21, 22 be initiated, and or alternate locations in Ayton or alternate locations for children and teens in this area. So since this meeting, I believe we had a meeting of our Recreation Advisory Committee, and we had some discussions with our Recreation Director about looking at putting on some additional summer programs. And as you know, Durham has a number of, they have a summer school program, a summer day camp. And we talked about, is that possible in Ayton or some of the other areas? Is there a possibility that some of the Ayton children could come to Durham to take swimming lessons? And so we sort of left it in his court, the ball in his court, to come up with some ideas of what that might look like. So I'm just wondering, when they've asked him for this $5,000 per year, whether that's something that that maybe should stay with our recreation department, so that when they're programming, they can put some funds towards that. I'm just thinking, if they put it towards the Ayton Rec group, and then our rec director decides to run some programs, then he's going to have to go to Ayton and say, can I use some of that $5,000 that we've given you to help with support this program? So I'm just wondering if that's maybe we're ahead of the game on that, and maybe we should delay designating $5,000 there when we're trying to do something more centrally through our rec department. And maybe our CAO can can talk about that because she was at that meeting also.
So I'm going to ask for a whole bunch of people to talk.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with Madam CIO because you presented the segue. Councillor Hergert, I think you'd want the opportunity, and then Director Mighton. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, Councillor, we did have our meeting of the West Grey Recreation Parks Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee. So that meeting included chairs and vice chairs of the Durham, Newstead, and Ayton committees.
Yep.
And it was a meeting of the minds. It was a really productive meeting where we did talk about recreation in all of West Grey, and ideas were shared. Resources were offered up, so they're already starting to think about how do we leverage the events that are happening independently to create more, just to create more recreation in West Grey. Programming was also a topic on the agenda, and the discussion centered around how do we leverage the success of our summer camps. I believe our enrollment was up 30%, something like that. So we had a very successful 2019 summer camp season, and I know that our recreation supervisor is anxious to roll out additional programming. Ideas were discussed and explored, and we landed on a few models, and perhaps it's even one play day in each of the communities to start, just to see how the interest is. So no decisions were made and no budgets were allocated because, as Councillor Hutchinson said, Mr. Hewlett is going to take that feedback, and he needs to finalize his budget with our treasurer, which was finalized, but in light of this new information and this new desire, we would like to have a chance to look at where we sit and what we could propose to council for West Grey Recreation on the recommendation of the advisory committee.
So you'd be looking for, or you'd be prepared to provide a report with regard to this?
Yes, Madam Mayor. What I think we probably would do, and I'll let the treasurer comment,
Yep.
is really just roll this request into the budget presentation so that it's the complete picture of what the recreation team is proposing for 2020.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Hergert and then Director Mighton.
Absolutely what the CAO just mentioned, that we would roll it into the budget request, that we have equity throughout West Grey for programming, and that their request is noted. They're very eager to get going, but we would leave it to staff to help us. And we did have this Ayton recreation meeting prior to our joint recreation meeting. So it was just some backing, I guess, from the committee to have some support for that request for programming. So
Thank you. Councillor Mighton, sorry, Director Mighton. I meant to say that. It's just a light humor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll just flag it so that it's part of that budget presentation. We're developing that overall West Grey Rec one.
Okay, so with regard to the minutes, then we'll just note that this particular item is folded over into the budget process then. Is that agreeable to members of council? Or do you want to do something a little different?
do we need to change the minutes at all? I mean, these are the minutes. We did recommend that, the committee did.
Good question. Director Mighton.
Yeah, I wouldn't change the minutes. You're only receiving the minutes for information.
yes.
It's not that you're actioning. It is a request for future budget dollars, so that'll be dealt with as part of your budget process.
Good. Okay, for clarification on that. Councillor Hutchinson, is there anything further on these minutes that you pulled?
No, that was the main concern.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, we have spoke informally with regard to a youth symposium. The idea of addressing the youth in our community in terms of having a voice and what it is that interests them. How can we look at West Grey that is going to be more prosperous for them in the future? And we look towards having a youth symposium in the spring of 2020. I've talked with our CIO and felt that our recreation supervisor could perhaps prepare a report for council's consideration at committee of the whole, and also there would be budget deliberation issues if this is something that could provide interest. But I thought that I'd bring it here under new business, not as a direct motion. I think it serves itself well that staff can spend some time preparing a report in terms of how this could shape up. I do know that our police have and I'm glad you're still here, Police Chief, in terms of a strategic plan that connects with youth, so that there's that opportunity to connect with our West Grey Police Service and many other industries, and for the purpose of dealing with our youth, to give them a voice in local government and the shaping of our community. But also we should also look at a takeaway for our youth in terms of, is there some information we could provide with regard to potential careers, or information on affordable housing. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other, and I think this might be a great opportunity. So I'm just going to put it forward as a report, and then we'll look forward to that report and a discussion at the council table and with other staff on that. All right, Councillor Townsend and Councillor Hergert.
Thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay.
Youth obviously was something that's been identified through the visioning as well.
Yeah.
We've heard that. I think the other thing that's important is if there's other activities, or, like a youth week or something like that, if we can tie it into the program, because sometimes you can get extra funding for that, right? We know that. And if you can use the province or feds dollars, I think we should where we can.
Yep.
But also it'll emphasize the youth message if there's other activities going around. So if staff could look at if there are opportunities to link with that as well, that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I think this symposium is going to lend itself to some really great opportunities and takeaways for both youth and local government, just in terms of how we're doing programming, levels of service, etc. So there's a lot that we can discuss at a committee of the whole for that. Councillor Herger.
I am very interested in seeing what staff would bring forward. I'm not sure a symposium is exactly what youth may want. I'm not sure. I think it might be too big of an initiative year one. I think we should be centered and focused on a goal, an outcome that we would like to see. How do we want to see youth engaged, and then allow that opportunity and see where youth take that opportunity. I think first would be some sort of discussion at the schools to invite people to come in and see what we do, even just as an initial point. But I'm quite interested to see what staff would come up with.
Yeah, I think that's really the idea, is that I think a symposium is a really great idea to have voices of our youth heard, and if it is in a day that's very structured, I think that's an opportunity. I don't want to stifle any opportunities here and suggest that that it needs to take on anything further than what's been suggested. I think we have to keep very positive when an idea comes forward, and I think we need to see where this goes with regard to a staff report. So, Councillor Shea?
We might want to loop Launchpad and possibly Senco
Great.
into that.
Did he read your mind?
Just because they probably have more credibility.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think we'd have the appropriate folks involved in all of this, and facilitators and speakers, so yeah.
On a bit of a sidebar, at a past meeting, we did have some discussion about trying to engage youth more in the business of council and local politics. And I don't think that's this initiative. I think this is more about what youth need in general. But I do think Councillor Herger expressed an interest in that, and I was thinking that maybe we could develop something separate and autonomous. Maybe it would have some tie-in about just trying to introduce young people to the roles of council and how it might be something they would be interested in. So
Absolutely.
Just a parallel activity.
Yeah, no, I absolutely see it as a parallel activity, absolutely. All right, so that's just on a report. Is there any other new business? And I'm looking to my right, to all of you. Okay. To my left, any other new business? Okay, all right. So that's the new business. Madam CIO, you have new business. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And with Council's indulgence, I would respectfully ask that we give some consideration to our December council meeting schedule. From the staff's perspective, we are having some challenges with workload, and I would really appreciate if we could consider adding a committee of the whole meeting in December, But because of workload, what I would really love to see us work toward is perhaps taking away the December 3rd council meeting, which is following directly after the November COW, adding a committee of the whole on the week of December 9th. I don't know, whatever day we can land on for that.
Okay.
And then on December 17th, we would use that council meeting to ratify the matters from the 28th and the, say, the week of the 9th. The reason that I'm asking this is because staff are when meetings are back-to-back and there's an awful lot of business that we need to bring to COW, we end up with this extremely long committee of the whole meeting. Yes. And if we could adjust December to have one council meeting to ratify and an additional committee of the whole to get through the regular business, that would be a much more comfortable flow that we could bring the year-end things closer to a close in 2019.
Okay. Well, we very much appreciate that you brought this forward. I think the timing is fantastic, and thank you for all the considerations with regard to staff workload and consistent flow of reports that are coming to Council and Committee of the Whole as we approach the last month of the year. So what I'm getting is that there would be a potential, if some member of Council is interested in moving and seconding, that the December 3rd Council meeting be cancelled. So December 3rd Council meeting be canceled, and that we look for a Committee of the Whole meeting in December.
Correct.
So would Council be interested in December 9th as a Committee of the Whole meeting through the day? Councillor Townsend?
I know we've done this before. I'm wondering if we can't wrap it around on the 10th, which actually means we're here anyway for the Committee of Adjustment and the Committee of the Whole Planning. And what that means is that we dedicate the day instead of chewing up multiple days during the week.
All right, what I would say to that is if the Committee of the Whole is held after planning, because I have a Grey County long-term care meeting in the morning, and that goes from 9:30 to, well, you've seen, I've come in here just as the meeting started, or I'm ready to go right at the meeting time of 1 o'clock. So if that is a possibility of putting it on the 10th, I would look to Madam CIO to ask the question, do you happen to know how long that agenda at this point for December would be? I'm not certain we'd have that agenda set, but I'm posing the question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and you're correct. That is a little bit too far out to give an estimation of how long that committee meeting would last. I mean, it's a 1 o'clock start, and I know that recently they've been running the full afternoon as well.
Okay. And I just want to thank you very much for that. So good question with regard to that. December 11th, there's Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority Board meeting on December 11th at 1 p.m. So I just want to mention that to members of council. The 12th is a county council, so that takes that is the day for county council. On the 13th, well, the 13th, we have budget that goes from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. I don't know whether outside of that, I mean, that's a consideration of this meeting, by the way. Consideration that this is coming forward. It's something that would be looked at this Friday. I just happen to have it to be determined in my calendar, FYI. But if that is something, I know our Director of Finance and Treasurer is proposing a date that will be addressed on Friday, but that would be from the morning. So I don't know whether Committee of the Whole could take place after that. It is a Friday, but then I'd swing back to members of council for you to consider the 9th at all. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Townsend?
I can't make commitments on Friday afternoons with my profession is when I set up for the weekend and for the following week. So Friday afternoons for me do not work at all.
Okay.
So, thank you.
I know it's hard to schedule at a council meeting. We're going to do our very, very best on that, but thank you for saying so. Councillor Townsend, then Councillor Shea.
Yeah, with all due respect, I think we would create another problem potentially for staff if we left it that late in the week, because your council meeting then follows 4 days later. And how do you put all that together based on the results of the COW?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be a little unfair to push it that far out, so.
Well, we never want to be unfair, and thank you very much for that point. Councillor Shea and then Councillor Herger, and then nobody here. Well, thank you. Councillor Herger.
I would move that we move it to December 9th, which would be the Monday.
In the morning, right? At 9 a.m.?
AM, yep.
Okay.
AM.
Okay, so that's what we have on the books. So it would be moved by Councillor Hergert. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Townsend. So for both the mover and seconder, would you also be moving that the December 3rd council meeting be cancelled and that, that we hold a committee of the whole on December 9th, 2019 at 9 a.m.? Mover, seconder? Councillor Herger.
There's been a request for 10 a.m.
Okay. All right, so, all right, you're suggesting that's okay as the mover and as the seconder? Yes, sir. All right, so everybody clear on this, so I don't have to read this one over? Councillor Hutchinson?
Just a question. So
Yep.
did I hear that we weren't going in the afternoon, so we're only looking at 2 hours?
Well,
No,
you know
I thought you said we couldn't do afternoon.
Well, that was Fridays.
Yes,
Okay, I thought the mayor said, right, okay.
thank you
I'm
for
fine.
that clarity. Councillor Hamilton?
I would have to leave the meeting at 3:30 that day, so could we reconsider starting at 9, please?
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to go back to the mover and seconder. Would you look at 9 o'clock?
Can we do 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock then?
9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Oh, how forward thinking, and that's actually really great. Okay, a mover seconder? So, moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend, that the December 3rd, 2019 council meeting be cancelled, and that we now hold a committee of the whole on December 9th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Comments, questions? Calling the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. Good. All right.
Get them to sign.
Oh, yes. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Townsend?
First of all, thank you very much for doing that change. If you recall, when we were setting the targets for, or the dates for 2020, I had the same concern about what we were doing for next December and said, let's use this December as an example. So I think we've just learned, right, that we're going to have to look at 2020 again, likely. And the other observation, for those that didn't realize, we were going to go 2 months without a committee of the whole, which to me disturbed me because of the backlog of work we have. And the mayor and I talked about that
Yes.
this morning on a separate point. So, you know, hopefully that we do learn from that and we keep that in mind for next year.
Yes, thank you very much for that comment. So, any other new business? All right. On item 15, addendums. So I'm not aware of any. On item 16, notice of motion or direct motions. All right. Now, on item 17 and 18, which is closed session incomplete, members council, we are going back to the closed session, and under that item, I would suggest that we just finish off our public portion. So that would be the question period and the Municipal Act. And then we would go into item 17 and then item 18, which is matters arising from the closed session, if there are any, and then we'd come back into public session. So is that okay with everyone? Perfect. Okay, so we are on item 19, question period. Members of the audience, are there any questions? Well, thank you. So then on item 20, Municipal Act notices. I'm just looking here. Listed. So there's nothing listed, so we're not aware of anything. Thank you. So we are now going to go back into closed session. We have just recessed, so now we are just going to go back into, we've recessed, so we're going to go back. So I'm going to, with the abundance of procedural bylaw, I'm just going to ask for a motion to go in camera again. All right for that? And so it's moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. And I wonder if oh, yes. So I think I could do it from memory. Perfect, thank you. Whereas the Municipal Act SO 2001, Section 239, Sub 2, as amended, authorizes councils of municipalities to close to the public a meeting or part of a meeting for dealing with certain subject matters. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey goes into a closed session of council at 9:05 p.m. with the CAO, Deputy Clerk, and Director of Finance and Treasurer with regards to, this is dealing with labor relations or employee negotiations. I believe that was the only item with regard to what we needed to. I'm also going to say that not only labor relations and employee negotiations, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employee. I would say that would cover it off. On this motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. We will now retire to the committee room. Thank you. So members of members of the public, we have completed the public agenda. So now it's just a matter that our council's going in camera for the balance of our in camera, and we'll come out with the members of council. Hang on a minute. Members of council, I just want to identify very clearly that we are going in camera for those express purpose, and then we'll come out for an adjournment. I know you're all excited, it's the end of the night, but I need a clarity of process. Thank you.